I think we fully realise that we are indeed in different times when Lord Ross, as he is known as, issues a call to the membership of SIPTU to rally and take to the streets. Things are not as they were. And I think we have to register that. I mean, I'm seriously beginning to wonder, is the government's strategy here to kill the opposition to Irish water by talking it to death? The reality is people don't want to talk about this. In actual fact, it's probably true to say that they're sick listening to you talking about it. You've been talking about the concessions that you've said that you're making for a whole period of weeks and months now, and people want you to listen to what they're saying, not to talk over their heads. And the reality is that the government has lost the hearts and minds of the citizens. And once that happens, you are in free fall. And everybody knows it. We're in election mode now. The government, as we know it, is finished. And really, you would do everybody a service by taking action rather than talking. And the action that citizens want is nothing short of a standing down of Irish water and a total abolition of the water charges. And by your inaction and your failure to deal with that, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to get the opposite of what you hoped would happen. You hoped that you'd kill the opposition to this charge with kindness or with concessions, as it were. But in actual fact, you're stepping back, and your concessions will only seek to ignite the movement, because it's taught people a very valuable lesson, that they don't need to be afraid anymore, that the real power lies outside the gates of this House, and when people start exercising it, they can see results. And you see, we've got to factor in that the dogs on the streets now, nobody believes you anymore. And so you couldn't really blame people when what you say today is completely different than what you said yesterday. Completely different again to what you stood before the electorate and said you would do if they gave you their vote, and you've got a real problem. So, you know, if the government still doesn't get it, you really would want to wake up that people have had enough. And they've had enough because they're really sick managing. They're sick listening to a narrative from this government which bears no reality with their real lives. I'm glad that we're joined by our colleague Luke Ming-Fallingham, MEP, in the gallery here with us, whose blog in relation to his experiences when he visited the hospital with his new daughter has basically gone viral on YouTube when he coined the phrase, "Is surviving now the new thriving?" And people really associate that with that because they're sick of it. And up to now, you've got away with things because people were afraid that if they did something or they shook things up, that the alternative might be worse. But you know what? Now they actually don't care. Now they hope that things will be better. And that's a powerful energy when it's organised. It's a sufficient energy, in my opinion, to sweep this government away. And I agree with the other deputies. December the 10th is going to be massive. People have had a taste of freedom. They like it, and they're not going back. And, you know, if we're wrong about this, and if you're right, well, wouldn't be the decent thing to do to test that? Go to the people, call a referendum on your call an election, because, you know, I think we would get the result that we think we would get, because people have gone past it. I just want to very briefly deal with a couple of specifics in the legislation. The Minister spoke so much nonsense. I've really so little time in dealing with it. But first of all, the idea that this is a cost-saving measure to deliver a vital infrastructure and economies of scale is simply laughable. The idea that we have one local national authority instead of 34 local authorities. We never had 34 local authorities dealing with this. The local authorities were dealing with this on a regional basis and dealt with it very, very successfully when they were given the money to do so. And I know Deputy Wallace will make some points about that in more detail later on. The justification of the metering programme, when you're not as the only measure to deal with usage-based charges, is simply insulting as well. Customer leakage is minuscule. In actual fact, domestic usage of water is minuscule compared to the overall supplies. And when you're not dealing with lead pipes, you're not investing in district water meters. The idea that somehow putting meters on individual individual households will deal with leakage is rubbish. Everybody knows all it does is isolate supply to give you the ability to charge for it. And the idea that the Minister would call the metering programme particularly successful really shows how out of touch he is, when we have whole communities now alienated from An Garda Síochána as a result of them acting as a private security firm in essence. And if the Minister is naive enough to think that the hundreds of thousands of forms that have been returned back indicate some compliance, well then he is in for a rude awakening, because I know that many of those forms have been sent back unfilled out. Many of them have Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck as the main homeowner, and many of them are indicating you can shove your water charges wherever you like on them. So that doesn't indicate compliance. And you know, you talk about initiating a forum. There has been a forum. It's been outside its gates. People have delivered their verdict on this. You could do us all a favour by stepping aside and abolishing water charges on Irish Water now.
Thank you.